here, whatever machine heads are here. Welcome to the Machine Room podcast. That's right, we're back. Thank you.
No.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm your host, Nasty Dollars, and along with me is your other host, Hammer of Venus. I'm pointing in the wrong direction of the screen. It's a work in progress. And we're here. We're in July. We got through the fireworks. Everything's good. Nothing blew up. And I'm here. And this weekend was the release finally of Black Widow, which I saw, and it should have been released sometime before Infinity War. But there's a whole story about why it took this long to be made and released, and it's not because of the pandemic. It's because some guy who was in charge back then didn't feel like a female-led hero movie would be, a money maker and shit like that. But that guy got kicked out a while back, and then Kevin Feige took over, and that's why we're getting the good shit now. But this brings us into the conversation here. I hit up Rachel today, and I was like, yo, how about we just, geek out and talk about comics? Talk about the kind of comics we love, what got us into comics, what our favorite heroes and or publishers and how we're connected to it and blah blah. So we're just gonna go all out, geek all out, and talk comics, something that I myself fully want to still get deep into. So I'm gonna open the floor to you, Hammer Venus. Rachel, I know you read comics. I know you're into comics lore and whatnot, stuff like that. So I want to know, tell me and the people in here, like Spin Dog and Dro, what's up? Big ups to you guys who are in the chat room right now. Tell us, what was your introduction to comics, and what was your first comic and or first superhero that you fell in love with?
Well, my introduction was my sister's dad, um, my stepdad. He gave me his old comics, which
Ooh.
were a bunch of old DC comics, like original Justice League, stuff like that, like Superman.
Mm-hmm. So he
Um,
gave you the classics.
yeah, like the old classic, and they weren't kept up with, so people don't think that I have them in a vault somewhere because they weren't worth keeping. They
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 weren't
were
like
in bad
in.
shape, but at least it was a good starting point.
Do you
And
think?
then
I'm sorry to cut you off, but that just brought me to I just thought about it those comics. Do you think people thought about keeping them in good shape back then? Like, were there bags and boards back then when they first came out? I don't think
not
so,
back
right?
then, no, people didn't give a fuck about that.
No.
These were torn up. I think some of them had some of the covers missing, or they really weren't taken care of. But
Mm-hmm.
again, that may not have been something that people treated well back then because they didn't know we'd have this culture that we have now, where people do keep things like that as collectors and stuff like that. I
Right.
don't think they were seen as a collector's item. They were just like something that kids had, but we're way into adulthood and we're still collecting comics. So
I don't think they. No, I think nobody. You told myself back then how big it would have grown and whatnot. I would have been like, you lying, because it was such a small community. Back then we were
yeah.
just all to ourselves, and it was like comics and this and that. But anything outside of that was like, oh, you're a loser, you're a geek and whatnot. You're not cool.
Yep.
But anyways, going back to, you said your stepfather had comics and then he handed it to you.
Um the first one that I remember buying, there was two. I don't know which one came first. Somebody out there could fact check this for me, but The first one that I remember buying that I was excited about was X-Men Executioner Song Number One,
Ooh.
and I babied that thing. I kept it in the plastic, and it had a collector's card with it, and I made sure the card was always in the plastic with it. And the other one was Death of Superman because, like I said, my stepdad got me into DC Comics and the Justice League and Superman and stuff like that. So then when the Death of Superman came out, I was able to get it with the original like foil plastic cover, which I have no
Mm-hmm.
idea what happened to it. I still have that comic. I don't have the cover for it though.
I was about to ask you, like, did you buy two? One that was still closed and the other one that was
No,
open.
I should have. I
That's
again,
what I did.
I was a
I
kid.
did
I didn't know to do that.
I did that for when Fantastic Four tried to pull that off, and it was like the death of a Fantastic Four, which was
Yeah.
Johnny Storm, and
Yep.
I kept one closed and one open. But I don't think that matters today. So yeah, I don't think that comic even matters today. But
I
I
don't
did it
think
for that
so.
just in case, because you never know.
Yep. And then, um, we grew up poor, so I didn't get a lot. So I was always eager to read my friends' comics. So that's what introduced me into like more Marvel stuff like Spider-Man and Venom and Carnage when all that was going on and
Mm-hmm.
um Thor and the Avengers and things like that. So I found my way through my friends' comics.
I don't. I knew my oldest brother, one of my oldest, well, the oldest really. He was a big comic collector, right? And I was always fascinated by his collection. I couldn't see it, but I was fascinated by it, and I knew he had bins and bins and bins and whatnot. But I didn't really get into my comics probably, eh, until probably like sometime in the 90s. I don't know what age I was, and I don't even know how this got to me, but there was this like a catalog reached my house. I don't even know how, to tell you the truth. I can't tell you how it got there, why it got there, or if there was something that led to it, but there was a catalog that got to my house, and it said, "Here,
There.
buy these comics," and it was like dirt cheap, 25 cents, 50 cents. It was dirt cheap for like your first buy or something like that.
Right.
So I went to my friends and I was like, "Yo, let's do this. Let's get ourselves some comics." And we just started. I started marking some of mine, and they started marking some of them, and we sent that off. So came back and I had like this whole big stack of comics, and so did they, and that's where I got like, oh, this is around whatever time Men in Black the movie came out. This was around that time because
It
I had
sounds,
the first issue of Men in Black through that.
wasn't it like 97, 98, something like
Yeah,
that?
it had to be something like that. Because I remember it was like, oh shit, Men in Black. Yeah, it is a comic book. Oh, cool. I could finally read the comic and see how
Hmm.
it is, compared to the
97.
movie. So that's how I got that. And that kind of opened my door. But then again, I was still young, so I couldn't exactly like go out there and buy my own comics. But here and there, I would get comics. And I would have to say, from that collection, the only two things I do remember is that Men in Black one, because I was like, oh shit, here's the comic book to the movie. But also, it was this issue of uh, Deadpool and Daredevil.
I remember that.
Yeah, and it was together, and that's how I got introduced to like Deadpool and Daredevil,
Hmm.
and that's when I became a Daredevil fan. It was
Hmm.
from that comic on, and I remember, like for one birthday, Scooby got me an X Man. There was a guy named X Man, and that's what they called me, like X Man. So I was like, hey, you got a comic? And I remember it was this big annual one, and it was X Man. I was like, oh shit, cool. Oh, this guy's the strongest mutant. All right, cool. Like he was like one of my favorites. I don't think he lasted long, but that was my introduction to comics itself. my introduction to like the comic book world definitely would have to be the cartoons.
Yeah,
It was Batman the animated series,
absolutely.
absolutely number one. It had to be that one. And then later came like X-Men the animated series, and that was my big introduction into like
Hmm.
Marvel, and then Spider-Man and so forth. So everything that I'm introduced to, I have to give thanks to the animation because it opened a bigger door, because before the X-Men animated cartoons and Spider-Man, all we were introduced really, or the only thing that was really like um out mainstream was DC. You had Superman
Yep.
movie, you had Batman movie, and the such. Marvel wasn't exactly a key um merchandise at that point. You knew of it, but it wasn't key until them cartoon series came out, and like by the book, or so I heard. They went, they took more of their sources from the comics, so it was like I read the
Hmm.
comics, not verbatim, but enough because I could hear someone talk about like, oh yeah, Storm and how she like fought these the people and and the underground, blah blah blah, and they're talking from the comics, but I can follow through because the animated series touched upon that too.
Yep.
Like I know exactly what you're talking about. The Hellfire Club, I know exactly what you're talking about. The Phoenix Saga, hell yeah, I
Hmm.
know that, dude. That was the biggest event of my fucking childhood. What are you talking about?
My
It's
favorite was when I had already known about the Weapon X comics and Logan the Origins and stuff like that. And then when they did it in the cartoon, I was so hyped for that because they did
right.
it so well, matching the comic.
It's a cartoon and the toys.
Yep.
The toys really like broaden your horizon to the point where you were like, some of them even came with comics. Remember,
Hmm.
like some would come with comics, so that made your day. But the toys, that's how they broke that door, and it really opened my expansion. That a lot, I would get some comics and read, but I would never like fully jump into it because it's so much, like
Hmm.
I don't know how big comic buffs like stay in the game because it's so much to keep up with,
Yeah.
so much to keep up with. Even
And
if
they're,
it doesn't matter if you're in DC or Marvel, like either or, there's so much to keep up with if you want to keep
hmm
up with that universe. If I go into Marvel, I gotta read X-Men, Avengers, this and this and that, just to keep up with anything that goes into
yeah,
something. DC, Batman, Superman, Flash, Green Lantern, it's
Green
so
Arrow.
much and you want all that, but I can't like I took those what like a couple years ago, like 2 years trying to get into that world, and it was great, but it was exhausting.
It's exhausting and it's expensive.
Oh,
It's
surely
it's
when I did it,
especially
hell yeah.
if you're trying to do like what I do with the variant covers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta buy everything twice, and oh my God, it's a pain in the ass. You're like, these ones I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna open, this one I'm not. I usually read like the main variant and then like the variant B. I won't open that one.
Mm-hmm. I totally relate with that because when I was into the comic game and I started like putting these like you like my wall here, I started putting them on my wall, and then as you know, I wasn't getting comics just for comics. I was getting them per their covers,
Yeah,
you know? Like I was like, oh, this cover is beautiful. Because if anything gravitates you to a comic, it's the cover.
of
A hundred
course.
percent. 100% the cover.
Even
And
if the
sometimes
comic sucks, because
yeah.
there's comics with very great covers, and you open it up and the comic sucks. Like the
Yup.
writing is good, but
Mm-hmm.
the artwork is trash
It
because
is.
they do that to save time.
It is.
That's
It's like when you watch one of those old cartoons and the intro is fucking amazing,
yes.
and then you see the animation is just sucky. Like if you watch like Thundercats or
Hmm.
like He-Man or even the um and I feel bad for those overseas in Japan when they got the X-Men animated series and they had that dope ass fucking anime X-Men intro.
Yes.
But then they see the show and it's just American animation. It's like I would have been pissed off myself. It's like, where's the cool fucking, you know, anime style going on here? So, but covers really do make the comic, and not like just
Hmm.
what, you know, how good it is inside, because most of the covers are misleading and shit like that. But for you to buy it, it surely take it. And if anything, I started seeing issues as just like mini prints, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is a beautiful freaking thing, and mini prints, and I could put it up somewhere or whatever,
Yeah.
or just
It's
have it
art.
there.
It's
Yeah,
artwork.
it's art. It's art. And let's touch upon that, like how comics is art, you know?
Hey, I love the Goosebump cover.
Not the Goosebumps. The Goosebumps cover really pulled you in.
I love those.
I could just think about it, and I'm thinking about like ooze on the floor with that evil goblin head. I'm
Yes.
thinking that. I don't even know if that's a cover or if I just mashed up a whole bunch of Goosebumps covers together,
It
but
sounds like you just mashed two different covers together.
probably did, yo. Hey, those were those were better than those freaking Animorph covers where you just see them transforming slowly and they look
Oh
funnier
my
and
god,
funnier.
yeah, they're like goofy.
Ah. Oh, he meant like those were spot on. But yeah, like these are art. You know, this is art, and they're really good. Like you didn't think about this like back then when I was a kid either. Like how good, deep, and integral these stories were. You know, and people mostly thought like, oh, comics are just like they're trash. But the older you get, and when you hear about how they were back then and the stories now, these are really deep,
Mm-hmm.
crazy deep and intricate stories. I mean, I've read stuff in DC over the recent years that is just like, you know, some stuff was hard to understand, especially like death metal. Or I read like an Infinity War comic, and that was just like so far out there and so hard to follow. And they're just using like the words they use. Like these are people, like there's kids. I don't know if there's kids, but there's kids actually reading this, and this is a good way to even lead kids into reading books and such.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, it was definitely a gateway for me, like especially like in elementary school and we had this Scholastic book fair and stuff like that.
yes, I remember
And you
that.
got to just go through there and just, again, you're looking at covers and trying to find the best one that you could.
Hmm.
Mainly like Goosebump stuff for sure.
Goosebumps is really. Imagine if Goosebumps was a comic though, and
I could see it.
I don't even know if they ever went to that route, but yeah, you can see it.
I
Like
think they
if
did.
Goosebumps was a comic, it would have been like fucking dope.
Especially if it like expanded like universes and brought in more characters and things like that. Yeah, it would have been really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Speaking of like bringing characters and all that, and this is like not going. It's just a little like sidetrack, but it just reminded me of the Goosebumps movie, the first one, and how they like brought all the characters in the books
Hmm.
together and whatnot and stuff like that. And like overall, when it was actually a really creative, fun movie. It was like, oh, this is R.R. Stein, but what if his books were like actual real and these characters were real and they got loose?
Hmm.
It was really cool to see that like all these characters in. Kind of when they did the Scooby Doo movie and they brought all those classic
Yes, the
villains from the
ghost.
cartoon.
Hmm.
Yeah, shit like that is really cool. Sometimes it's just fun movies. You know, sometimes it's real cool. They're like fan films. But back to the comics. Right now in the chat, we got people talking about Batman comics. Uh, the the Ligamathor. I just call him Thor. Thor is talking about how Batman comics are just so amazing. So many storylines, never get bored. It is true. It is true. When I say DC, on the DC front, I feel like Batman is just like in the lead when it comes to storylines.
Yes.
You know, and then I mean, I'm a sucker for like the Flash as well, and I love Superman. Um, but Superman, I feel like it's great when people when they do those special ones. You know, like people
Hmm.
come in and they do like a special little like one shot or arc or something like that. You know, and they do this kind of stories or something a big event. But when it gets to like real deep, ongoing, long arc kind of stuff, Batman is way in the lead.
Yeah, Batman will always forever be a favorite of mine next to like the Punisher or the Max or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He
I love
just
the Max because it was so different than anything else. It was like psychological and it made you think and it was cerebral, and I love that comics could take a route like that and still be true comics.
I was never introduced to Max through the comics. I do remember that the recent, like maybe 2 years ago, they had a Batman Max crossover.
Yeah.
They had that going on there. I do know, excuse me, I do know of the Max because they had an animated series, and I
Yeah, on
watched,
MTV.
yeah, and I watched
That was
that.
my shit. And that
That's the
was
only
pretty
thing I
true
know
to
of.
the comics, except it ended way early.
Yeah, yeah.
Like some of the stuff on there is verbatim, like artwork and dialogue.
That's interesting. That man, I would love to find that again and watch it because
Hmm.
I barely remember anything. I do remember watching it, and I remember watching a lot of stuff I should have been watching back then on MTV. Like Eon Flux was a little bit too much for a
Oh
little
my
kid to be
God.
watching.
That show is intense. Even for an adult, that show's hard to watch.
Yeah.
You're like, wow. Like, what was that thing she put in her belly button and it like grew and
Ooh
oh, it was
shit.
weird.
I don't know. It was weird art, weird animation, just weird future, but it was so cool, so trippy, and my little young eyes loved it. You know, it was
Yep.
different. I think that's what it was. It was different, and maybe that's why every other like cartoon, especially comic based, was different because it was that era that there's not. That was the only way I got introduced to stuff because I didn't go to a comic store. I didn't have the freaking like
Hmm.
luxury of getting my own comics, so I had to live off of TV and movies and Batman animated series, like I said, X-Men, Spider-Man. Then Marvel had their own other series going on, like Iron Man and whatnot, Fantastic Four, and then everybody else tried to jump on something. So you had what was Wildcats. There was a series called
Yeah.
Wildcats based on those from Jim Lee, I believe they were Jim Lee's Wildcats. Uh, and that's how I met. No, that's how I got introduced to Grifter. Yes, was it Grifter? Yes, I believe his name was Grifter. It was a dude with like a bandana mask. It looked like Deadpoolish, but he had like two guns, and he had a long brown trench coat, and
Hmm.
he just looked really really dope. And he was like the coolest guy in the crew. And he was like the Wolverine of the crew, and I love that character. And I remember that he actually had like a solo run, and I got all those comics. Have I read them? No,
Hell no.
but I got them, and they're definitely there for me whenever I want to read it. But yeah, like I said, those were my introductions to comic books, and it wasn't until I was able to like order my own thanks to my parents, but I never got to stay with it. And then after that, it was just like you know um graphic novels or special
Yep.
arts. Like when I heard someone say like, "Hey, have you this or have you read that?" And I think the first one, probably it is in my head, is probably Batman Hush.
Yes,
I
that's a great one.
Oh man, I got Batman Hush and I read it and I was like, "Yo, this is fucking amazing."
Hmm.
And that introduced me into the world of like, okay, there's these graphic novels and they're all together and there's great stories out there. I need to find more. Little by little, I kind of did. Every time someone talks about some big event or whatever, I look into it, like Blackest Night, that event
Hmm.
that happened. Civil War, that was a big event that I didn't follow along when it happened, but afterwards I read it, and I was I was but when I got into comics, that's when they started doing like Secret Empire and Marvel, and also in DC was that fuck, what was the Rebirth?
Hmm.
When it's the DC Rebirth, and it led to I never finished. I never read. and they probably were finished by. I mean, definitely finished by now. I know they were like releasing it very, very fucking slowly. But that whole Watchmen DC kind of thing that was happening,
Yes.
I
I
never.
tried to
What was
get into that, but they released them so slow I just couldn't keep up with it.
slow as fuck? Like I was getting them as they were coming out, so I didn't even know. Like I would see something, and they'll be they always had different covers too for every
Yep.
issue. So I would never. I was always like, do I have this one? is this is this one out? I don't know. So, but I never read them, and I remember reading all around because then Batman had that one. There was that Flash, and there was that one There was that one episode. That one issues about how like uh, the button showed up in the Batcave, and
Yep.
Batman was investigating it, and then it was something to his father. It was a lot of stuff, but like I said earlier, it was so much to keep up, especially at that time because DC was like releasing like 2 or 3 issues each for each fucking
Yeah.
run they had. It was way too much to keep up with, and Marvel as well. But I I always have this urge to read them. There's something special about just like chilling, kicking back, and reading some comics.
Yep.
You know?
One of the last ones that I really got into was it was Fight Club 2, the graphic
Ooh,
novel.
I remember that.
That was great.
I remember that. I think I collected those as well.
I didn't collect them. I waited till they all came out in the graphic novel and just bought that, the
That's
hardcover.
the that's the smartest thing to do.
Mm.
That's kind of what I just like gave up with. I was just like, fuck it. I just went into stuff. But I was like on this. I was on this hunt to find the newest thing. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I wanted to do. Is like the newest comic issue one. I'm like, all right, let's try this. This is great. This is great. And I found so many. I found so many great freaking comics that started from one that I know I got, and it ended up being like a big run, and I think it's still going or it stopped. Was Paper Girls. I
Mm-hmm.
I got that comic from issue one all the way to I don't know what, and I think it ended, or if it kept going, then I messed up. I don't got any more, but that ended up being like a hit. Um, I read some other ones, and it was just hard to keep up. Hard to keep up with them, Plus money wise, some like that Doomsday one, the Watchmen and DC.
Yep.
That some just released like here and there. Like they didn't have exactly a time frame. They just released when they released.
Yeah, whenever they felt like it.
Yeah, I wasn't down with that. But it was smarter to get just the volumes, and that's when the conventions were like a gold mine. You go there
Mm-hmm.
and you just find like, hey, let me get this, let me get that. Like that's how I got introduced to Daredevil's Shadowland. Never knew of it. Never knew of it. I was at the convention. I looked at stuff, and I'm looking up like Daredevil, and there's these Shadowlands, and I'm like, what the hell is this? This is cool. What? A Daredevil in black suit, evil, runs
Yep.
Hell's Kitchen. I started collecting every single fucking Shadowland comic I could find, and it was like a great freaking arc that I never knew existed, and apparently was big at the time. So, and I kind of miss going into those little fucking like um what are they called? I miss going to the convention and looking for shit like that. Finding
Yeah.
finding new stuff or finding the stuff that you wanted so badly. You're like, I hope they got it over here, and bam, they do.
I never had a chance to go to comic book stores until I was like in my teens.
Mm-hmm.
And I had so many in my mind that I had collected that were, I had a bunch of like issue ones to stuff that I had found, not at a comic book, like at a Barnes and Noble or like Walmart or wherever I could find them. Like,
Barnes and Noble is a great spot to get like volumes
mhm.
and whatnot, graphic novels and such.
But it was such a disappointment to go into a comic book store because in my mind I'm thinking they're gonna have every issue of everything that ever came out ever, and
No,
the sad thing is they don't. So
they don't.
I go in there with this list of comics that I want to, start getting at issue number twos or issue number threes and things like that. Like somebody had bought me Punisher War Journal number 50, but I didn't have any of the other ones.
Uh huh.
And I went to look for more and I never found any more. Or
Mm.
The Pit, I never found any more. The Pit or Chapel, um,
That's
comics that I wanted to keep up with, but nobody had them.
that's when the hunt begins.
Yeah,
That's the hunt. And you see, here's the thing, right? The comics would have all the comics of recent, you know. But if you're looking for a comic issue from like way back then you gotta hope it's in their backlog.
yeah,
Back issues and whatnot, or if it becomes a reprint, which hardly doesn't, then that's when you have to find like the volumes of it. But yeah, that there's people who like, I remember my days at the comic book store. There'll be people just looking through the bins of back issues,
hmm,
looking for either they're like me and they're just like, oh, let's see what I can find, and then you get lucky and you find like every issue of something. You're like,
yeah,
hell yeah. But there's people and they're like, all right, this one, oh, this one. They're actually hunting, looking for the right
yeah.
stuff. I
I'm
know
definitely
there's
a
one
hunter.
comic book store that I know there's one comic book store that exists. I don't know where, but apparently is the biggest ever, and that person has everything. And I think
Wow.
that person also, of course, because it's the biggest and has everything, that person also like ships out. I forgot what it's called, but I know it's apparently like Comics R Us. That's what we should open. We should open a comic book store called a Comics
We
R Us.
should. And be dicks to
Uh,
everybody.
just everything. We got nothing, but
Go away. Go to the mall.
we'll be like just like clerks,
Yeah,
just there
exactly.
to hang out. Just get out of here.
Um, I like for online stuff, I go to Midway Comics out of New York, and they usually have newer stuff, but if you're trying to find something old, they probably don't have it.
Yeah, it's a freaking hunt. I wouldn't even try. That's why I just stick with anything that's new, and anything that's older, I'll just I'll just get the volumes. Well, now is different. I mean, I wish now was when I was a kid, because you could get shit digitally as well.
Yes.
The access I have to with just Comixology alone is fucking amazing.
That was a whole other disappointment to me was the same thing. Like the digital comics came out, and I'm thinking in my mind again, okay, they're gonna have everything ever. And so I start looking for those issues that I never got to find, and they don't have them either. So I never had luck with the online ones.
Did you keep looking
I didn't know.
like
I
till this
usually
day?
What's really been a saving grace to me is eBay because collectors will put shit on eBay, and like I was able to get the original V for Vendetta series.
Oh yeah.
I got every one of them in like pristine condition, like never read. I was so things like that, like you can find on eBay.
Did that go for a lot?
It wasn't that bad. It was like almost normal price,
And they were good.
but yeah, they were good.
Nah,
They got
nice.
stolen, but
Oh, motherfuckers.
I had them at one point. Now I just have the graphic novel, but I did have all the comics.
Ah, shit. Um, Mines are just all in bins and whatnot, and I think also not just that I stopped myself, because the only thing I really collect are the Power Ranger comics now, but it's
Hmm.
also the whole, still can't be able to, like, there's some days they have like 2 days that I could go into the comic book shop that I go to, you know, but it's still not open, you know, it's still like
Right.
curbside kind of stuff. So that kind of draws me away from like, oh, let me get some new comics, whatever, and just walk in, because the joy is walking in,
Yeah.
seeing what they got. Oh, look, this, just like wandering around there and looking through pages, and oh, maybe I'll get this. Oh, this is a nice cover. Let me get that. But I don't got that luxury right now, so I just like, give me my comics and then just go home.
Yeah.
I don't get to do all that, and whatever else, I just do it through my Comixology and stuff. But I miss that, just walking in and just walking around and trying to find something and reading. Like I showed you that figure of freaking Batman with an axe, the guitar.
Yeah, I love that. That's from
And
death metal.
yeah, and but it's like the newer one. It's not the first one. It seems to be a newer one, another one that happened. I didn't even know
Yeah.
existed. So I'm like, what's going on? See, I blame pandemic or whatever for keeping me away from comics and letting me know what was happening and what was coming through. Because that's how I kept up. It's like, oh, this arc happening. Oh, this event is happening right now.
Yeah.
I don't know nothing about that. I don't follow anything. It's like it's like I gotta fill my like Twitter or something with comic book Twitter or something to let me know what's going on, because I have no idea, and I'm finding out now because there's these action figures about it. And I'm like, whoa, hold on, why is Batman here fucking in a rock band looking dope as shit? I didn't know there was another death metal.
That's what's so great about comics is they don't die, they just start over.
They do, and nobody dies. They just keep
Nobody fucking
coming.
dies, apparently. You think
Nobody.
they're dead, they come back.
They
Or
just
they
come
just
back.
start over.
Isn't that that's it's the whole Dragon Ball factor. No one dies. They just keep coming back.
Yep. I remember when Captain America was a big
Oh,
deal when he died, and everybody was
yes, it
all
was.
mad, and they like immediately brought him back.
It's funny because I'm also I'm also hosting this on my Twitch, and someone just responded, "Is it Mile High Comics?" And I think it is. That sounds familiar. Mile High, Mile High Comics. Let's see. This is in where? I
Denver?
know, right? The website looks so fucking old, outdated. You know what it is? Like every comic book looks outdated. Yeah, this is Denver, Colorado. There's gotta be a picture because I remember seeing it. It's like a big warehouse. Look, I mean, right here it says Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, new books. If I click, yeah, this is it. This is it. If you click on visit our store and you just see a picture of their big ass fucking warehouse, just football field of comics.
Jesus.
And that if you were looking still, I will recommend there because I heard that's the place.
That I think that kind of circulates to me wanting to know where I'm gonna move next. I think Denver's gonna be it now.
Right next to that motherfucker. Right next to them. Midtown Comics in New York. Yeah, I heard that's a big one. New York.
Yeah.
New York. New York. And we have some good ones here too. But yeah, like
We
I
don't.
miss I miss that whole going in there and whatnot and stuff. So, um, your favorite comics or comic run or comic hero heroes. Don't have to be just one.
Heroes. Um, I don't know. I think the tried and true would always be Batman because Batman has the best villains.
He does
And
have the best
so
rogue
they usually
gallery.
have the best story arcs, but if I had to pick a favorite, it'd probably still be the Crow.
Ah, yes. Yes, yes. Weren't you mad that I met him and shit?
Yes. You motherfucker.
It was
Yeah,
at
he
that.
met James O'Barr was texting me about it. It's like, you dick.
It was at that really. I forgot which convention it was, and it was just the guy who created the Crow. And I see him, and I was like, "Hey, that's James O'Barr or whatever." And he was just there, and it wasn't like crazy. Like people weren't like all over him or whatever. It was just real chill and whatnot. And I took him. I took a while, and then finally I was like, you know what? Fuck it, man. I'll go see James O'Barr, man. I'll meet the guy who did the Crow, and I talked to him. What I told him, I forgot. I think I just told him like I really love the Crow, and the movie was great, and I think I asked him how he thought about it, and I love your art style, and blah
Mm-hmm.
blah, and I think I took a picture, got something autographed, and immediately I think I hit you up, and I was like, hey man,
Yep.
guess who I met?
Of course.
Bam. The
I used to
Crow.
have a couple of the Todd McFarlane run of The Crow, which was more
Hmm.
based on the movie, and those were really nice.
I didn't know he did a run of The Crow.
It's
Interesting.
it's very pretty. Like the styling is done very like Todd McFarlane. I
Oh
found
man,
those in Seattle.
I would love to read that. You know, that reminds me because back then, my best friend back then, he was into Spawn. And
Hmm.
he like read some of the comics and he bought like the action figures and I was into Spawn. You know, I was like, oh man, this is cool. What is this? You know, you find out about Tom McFarlane. He's the Spider-Man, blah blah, all this stuff. And I remember that was like the Spawn time. It was like the toys were the shit. They made that movie. There was the freaking cartoon series that I shouldn't have
Oh my
watched at my
God.
age,
Yeah.
but I did. Have I ever read a Spawn? No, but everything I know is because of the my friend, the movie, and that cartoon series. That's it.
I always had friends that collected Spawn. So I always like got it by them.
Mm-hmm.
Either like I read it or they told me what was going on, so I never bought it for myself. But I always liked Spawn.
Mm. Yes, that was
Did
a
she
good
just
one.
throw up?
Oh, she burped.
Sorry.
She
Yeah,
eating
you were like,
she eating good back there. Hey, Dro asks controversial comic opinion. Ooh, what's a controversial comic opinion?
comics aren't everything.
Comics aren't everything.
They're overrated.
They're overrated. All right,
Bam.
she's not invited to the barbecue.
Superman is overrated.
Oh yeah, that is a big comic fucking opinion.
Well, the opinion is that he's overpowered. He's constantly like gaining abilities and he's like way stronger than he should be.
It is it's funny because those same people will freaking praise Goku and it's the same shit.
It's the same character.
It's the same shit. And it's like okay, so you praise Goku, but you're not praising Superman.
No,
And the
it's
thing
the
with
same fucking
I
thing.
mean Superman, like you know, he could be all that, and that's why when there's evil Superman, watch out. But because he doesn't go all out, he's more humanized or whatever, you know, and he has morals and whatnot. He has
Hmm.
weaknesses. That's it.
It's true.
You know. Have you watched Superman and Lois yet?
I haven't. I keep forgetting about it. I keep seeing
Mm,
stuff on Twitter about it, and people are saying how good it is. So
it
I
is
need to
it
watch it.
it is really good. Like you don't need to keep up with anything else on that fucking universe. That show stands alone, and it's like a movie production. It's good, and the story is getting better and better, and you really feel for it.
I have a controversial comic opinion,
Go ahead.
and it's gonna sound funny coming from me because I love Alan Moore, but Alan Moore's not all that.
He's not all that, but his comics are, or just like in general, everything.
And if we're talking about him as a person, he's a dick, and he thinks he's a wizard. But some of his stuff in the comics is like really hooky or honky, wokey, goofy, whatever you want to
Mm-hmm.
call it.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it's great.
I just know he doesn't like his own adaptations and shit.
Yeah, he refuses to watch movies based on his comics or anything that he's written.
Hipster.
He's he's the true hipster. He has a beard and everything.
Dro asks who would have called in the hotline to have Robin killed. I would not have.
I would, because I don't like Robins.
See, I do. I do like Robins. And
I
that's because
I
I grew up on that. Like, you know, Batman was there. It's like, oh shit. And then you got Robin. Like, hey, I'm Robin. You know, and shit like that. And
Is
then
that how he introduced himself each time?
he,
Hey,
hey,
I'm
I'm
Robin.
hey,
Robin. Well,
that's
basically,
Nas at a job interview.
Yeah, hey, me, I'm Xavier. Hire me. But no, I mean, well, then again, that wasn't the Dick Grayson, so I don't know. I wasn't part of that time, and I don't really know that Robin probably was annoying as fuck. From what I heard, he was. That's why they killed him
Yeah.
off. But then they brought him back as the Red Hood, you know. Um, but I like the Robin family, and especially when they go off to Damien. I'm not a big fan of because he's a little dick. Damian Wayans is just a little dick. He think he's better than Eric Robin's well, the Robin family. You got Dick Grayson, the first Robin, and then you got the other Robin that come in, Jason Todd. Who else was there? Fuck, Jason. Come on, help me out here, guys. Nobody remembers. What? I don't remember. I know the fucking shit. For some reason I got Todd Ingram, but that's Scott Pilgrim.
Tim Drake.
Tim Drake, there it is. That's the other fucking kid I can remember. Then the other ones I really don't fucking remember. But there's Robin, Red Robin, and then Red Hood, who used to be Robin. That was the Jason Todd one. And then Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing, and then also becomes Batman at one point. You know, you got Damian Wayne.
You're totally forgetting Stephanie Brown.
Ah, yes, that girl. There you go.
And she became Batwoman.
Mm-hmm. That's the one from the Dark Knight, right?
Dark Knight Returns, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. I liked her style because she had the glasses and the pompadour and shit like that.
Yeah.
She was dope. She was dope, and I like her. You know, I would not call to have her killed off. But yeah, it was to me it was cool. You know, I know some people are like, oh, I just want Batman by himself, but no, I want. We only had we had two movies with him and Robin, and then people say like, "Oh, Robin killed it." It's not Robin who killed it. It was the fucking studio that killed those fucking movies. You know, Forever is a fucking masterpiece. I don't give a shit. And release the
I love Batman Forever.
Yeah, release the Schumacher cut. But Batman and Robin, yeah, that did kind of fucking destroy everything. But I believe that it's possible and can be done, and we had a little taste of it with The Dark Knight Rises. You know. They gave us that little Batman and Robin kind of thing, even though we didn't know about it. And then they try to play us off and shit like, oh, why don't you use your name, Robin?
Oh my god, that was so stupid.
Piece of shit. Just made him Dick Grayson, man. What the fuck? God.
My favorite iteration of any Robin was when they did the Red Hood movie, the cartoon.
Yes.
That was insane because they did Death of the Family by killing, was that Jason Todd?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Jason Todd. Beat him with a crowbar.
Well, you see, there's a story, you know, like you take that. Snyder touched it, you know. He pointed out that in his universe, Joker killed Robin. You can go with that, you know. Don't just bring a story where it's just like, oh, he has a Robin. Bring in a story where, oh, he has a Robin and Robin helps him, but then there's that whole thing about, you know, family, you know, like Dominic Toretto. But then make the next movie like the Joker kills Robin, you know, and then have Batman deal with that and whatnot. But the thing is that you gotta do it. You gotta do it where you don't see it coming, you know, because we will see it coming. You gotta do it so you don't see it coming.
That's what's so great about Batman Forever is because you don't see it coming. Then it's like, oh, let's go to the circus. Oh, look, it's Robin's family.
And Robin, who's like fucking damn near 30 years old.
Yep.
He needed to be taken in by Bruce Wayne. Come on.
And he's already like a badass.
Right? He took the Batmobile, and it's something I always say till this day. Come and ride my love machine, baby. Woo! I'll never forget. You never hear me because I never bring it up to you, but I do it. There's a lot of things I say.
This motherfucker's eating on camera.
I'm sorry. I'm eating some things.
Obviously.
They say I heard Christian Bale refused to work in the film if they had a Robin, so it was this closest thing they could do. Fucking Christian Bale.
But he was okay with Batman taking 8 years off. Okay, I don't. I
I
hate that.
I got beef with that, but that's 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 getting us away from
Batman was sad and he took 8 years off.
getting us away from that shit. There was I did want to read. I did want to go into the 52 Batman because I believe that was a great run. You know, if
Mm-hmm.
anything, 52 Batman was like the king of that era because his stories were just amazing. Maybe him and the Flash. Um,
Mm-hmm.
no, wait, that was also when Blackest Night happened too for this guy, wasn't it? Around the 52 era,
Mm-hmm.
I think so. So okay, so some people had to think, but Batman was like from beginning to end, like one hell of a story, and I wanted to like, oh man, I'm gonna read this, but then I was like, man, I'm not gonna read all that. So I just watched like YouTube videos, you know, like Comic Historian or Comics Explained
Yeah.
and shit like that, and they really broke it down for me. But I wouldn't mind still like grabbing something like, grabbing one of those, especially when they did Death of a Family. I don't think it's Death of
Yep.
a Family, Death in a Family or something like that. And read that again. Oh yeah, it was Snyder and Capullo were great writing Batman team on New 52. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was them, and they really killed it. Uh, I know I tried to dabble in the Superman, and then when it came to Marvel, I have a whole bunch of, like I said, Daredevil was like the first Marvel thing I grabbed. It was him and
Mm-hmm.
Deadpool, and I didn't gravitate so much to Deadpool. I love the Deadpool. I thought it was really funny, really cool, but there's something special about Daredevil, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was maybe the ninja factor of it, that he's blind. I love the look, you know? Um, the devil of Hell's Kitchen. It was just really, really cool. So you could imagine how freaking like awesome it was for me to not only just see the movie, remember director's cut only,
Yes.
and the TV series that was just like
Mm-hmm.
amazing, you know. And then later that I find out that um, Ninja Turtles was kind of a parody or satire of kind of Daredevil and shit
It was
like
a
that.
parody, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why they're called the Foot, and
Mm-hmm.
it's Splinter, you know, instead of Sticks.
That they used to all wear red bandanas,
Mm-hmm.
taken from Daredevil.
Mm-hmm. And stuff like that, I really loved. And then these other heroes like Punisher. I was down with Punisher as
Mm-hmm.
well. I I don't know if I read any that are really good or that stuck with me. I did have like a little. I did have a couple issues. Um, but Punishers are really like psychological, you know.
Yeah.
They really dig into his mindset and his past, the war and stuff like that, and if what he's doing is right or not, because he was the anti-hero, so he really played along with that. Um, I had this tutor in college, and I don't know how we got into the conversation, but geek talk always happens around me, and he said like, yeah, this is comic where Punisher just kills the whole Marvel universe, and I'm like, what? It's like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'll bring it. And sure enough, the next freaking session we had, he brought it, and it was barely him teaching me, like helping me with my freaking paper. It was mostly him showing me the comic and letting me read it and whatnot. I was like, yo, this was fucking crazy. Like he literally like killed everybody, and then he was like, well, the only real solution to this is take myself out, and he kills himself too. And I was like, holy
Mm-hmm.
shit, that was pretty damn cool. So then Punisher like, you know, kept getting cooler and cooler with me and shit like that.
That's awesome.
Ghost Rider is another one that I like. I wanted to get more into. I did read the run of Felipe Smith, who was someone that I chilled with on our first convention. He created Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider. He's
Mm-hmm.
the one with the cool ass car and whatnot, and the Mexican American one. So I was really hyped when they put him in Shield, and I saw that car and him and everything brought to life. That's like the first time. Like we seen Ghost Rider already, Nicolas Cage, which
Yeah.
the
Suck.
movies out there are outrageous and whatnot, but I still enjoy it. The second one, especially, the second one is so fucking crazy. It's
It's
just so
redonk.
stupid. It's like Crank, you know, because it's made from people like Crank. So it's like Ghost Rider on acid.
Yeah.
It's crazy shit. But yeah, it was real cool to see him right there. And there was word that they were gonna make a series out of him, but nothing went through. It was supposed to be on
See,
Hulu, and it never
that
happened.
would have been cool.
Yeah, no, for
And
real. Like
I
he
was
was.
totally waiting for that, even though I don't watch Agents of Shield. The Ghost Rider show would have been cool to see.
Hell yeah, because he stole that show. That season, whatever season it was, if I had anything to tell anybody to watch in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's just that. Those episodes with him in it because they were
Hmm.
so freaking good. So good. Like graphics, everything, presentation, how he got in there. There was even this little, like he told the backstory of like how he got his powers, and you literally see like a little bit of Johnny Blaze, you know, giving it to him or something like that. It
Yeah.
was really well done. It was really cool, and you just wish it kept going, but he was like there for like half of the season, and then that's it.
Joe says, first comic book movie everyone saw.
Superman.
Yeah.
It has to be Superman.
I grew up on those movies, and then when the '89 Batman came out, that one just stole the show for me. Like I
That
had
one.
that. That was when we talked before about VHS tapes that we watched nonstop. That was one was
Mm-hmm.
Batman, but that and the Superman movies.
Joe had Batman Forever, then Batman Returns. You went backwards. Oh yeah, we grew up on
This
that
is
time.
how
Like,
old I am. I had Batman Returns, the board game.
oh shit.
That's how old I am.
Like I mentioned, and you know when we started the show, like that was my introduction for real. That was my like I didn't even know as a kid that Ninja Turtles was a comic.
Oh yeah, I didn't
No
either.
idea.
I just thought it was this cartoon that came on.
Yeah, I had no idea it was from a comic book until I was way older, and then my mind was blown. And I know someone who's like this guy is like hardcore turtles. Remember Josie? You know,
Hmm.
he's do videos with us. Um, he's hardcore into turtles and everything. He has like turtle tattoos and all that shit. And his clothing line that he does is just based on Ninja Turtles mostly, that and wrestling. But he talked to me about like the comic books, especially now, and how crazy they are, you know, and how gritty
Hmm.
they are and stuff like that. Like I know there was a run recently where like three of the turtles died and there's just one left,
Yep.
you know, the last Ronin and stuff like that. So that's something I would love to dig into, but it's just so much so intricate that you know I don't know where to jump into it. So that's why I just read like Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles comics, you know, and there's the Batman and Ninja Turtle comics there. But as far as it goes to those right there, yeah, man, I would love to jump in there. You know, there's no excuse for me not to, other than I don't know where to go, where to start. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
that's all it is.
That's what was so great about the new 52. It was just like this fresh start,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to just tap into what's going on now and the new stories and the new origins. And even though they kept a lot of the origin stories and stuff like that, it was just cool to have them start over.
Yeah, that's why I started. That's why when I started with Rebirth. It was the beginning, you know,
Hmm.
and I was just like, all right, cool. Issue one, issue one, issue one, issue two, issue two. I was just going along with it until I just couldn't anymore. But yeah,
Exactly.
that's what I wait for, like new runs. And the thing is that they're always doing some new runs. So I collected Daredevil around that time too because if DC is rebooting, so is Marvel. They always go like hand in
Hmm.
hand, you know. So there was a new Daredevil run, and then I collected like a majority of all that, and then they started again another run. You know,
Hmm.
uh, it was Star Wars that really got me there because I got the first issue of Star Wars when they redid it in Marvel and everything was like canon and connected. So I started getting those, and then you know he started off with Star Wars, and they got fucking Vader, and then they got other people, and it was just so much to freaking collect and whatnot. And it's still ongoing. Like Vader had like 3 runs already, I think, but it's still
Oh my
continuing. You
God.
know,
Yeah.
and it's but it's based on where. So the first run was like between A New Hope and Empire Strike Back. Then the second
Hmm.
run is between Empire Strike Back and Return of the Jedi. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's how they're doing their stuff. But those are, yeah, that was the best time to get into something, and that's why I was always looking for something fresh. It's like, oh, issue one of this new stuff. This might be good. This might be new. I want to see something new and not just go to the, your basic, DC or Marvel heroes. I wanted to find something new to read about.
That's what was cool about the. I read one of the Darth Maul comics, and it was like a standalone,
Mm-hmm.
but he's still in that universe, and it was like an issue where he was sent to find somebody, and he goes into like a space bar and looking for one person, he ends up killing everybody in the bar. I was like, that's shit you won't see in the movie.
No, that's metal. That's metal. Dro said Marvel has so many revivals that I kind of gave up with the exception of Spider-Man and Venom. That's why we say just get graphic novels and
Yep.
comic events and arcs. It's great if you're reading like beforehand and around it, and
Hmm.
stuff leads up to it. I had my experience with the Secret Empire. I read the issues that
Hmm.
led up to it, and I started with Captain America going Hail Hydra. So seeing that lead up to that was great. It was like you watching all these MCU movies, and it leads up to fucking Infinity War kind of shit. But even if you just jump in right there, it's still something cool or whatever because they kind of help you out. They also tell you where you could go if you want to like you know get a little backstory and whatnot. But that alone is good enough because even with just that big event, the other things will have like little side events
Hmm.
within that big event, and it's still an experience. Like Secret Wars was fucking amazing. The last Secret Wars run they had, I remember reading that, and it was great. Like the main thing was great, but the side stories was even better because in the arc of Secret War, it was that Doom created a whole new world based on you know, his own creations and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So the Ultimate Marvel and Marvel whatever, like they collided and destroyed each other, and then it was just whatever Doom created, and there were these sections of the world that was just redone and reimagined. So there was like, and I had the comic right there too. It says Secret Wars. It's X-Men '92. So there was a section where it was just the X-Men from '92 again.
Nice. Yep.
Like from the animated series and that kind of shit. There was a section was Old Man Logan. There was a section. It was like it looked like a lot of what if, but in their own kind of worlds and whatnot.
Hmm.
And they never crossed over a wall or whatever to see the other side, and they didn't know about anything else outside of it. But there was those stories around the main story of Secret Wars that was still great. It was fun to go around that. So if anything, that's what I would recommend. What's going on now? I have no idea. None. I don't know what's going on in DC. I don't know what's going on in Marvel. You have to do
No,
your
I'm kind of
research.
out of the loop too. I've just been going back and reading graphic novels that I can find because
Mm-hmm.
they're great to get you caught up on stories and stuff like that too.
Yeah, you could just do that. Go back. You never read Darkest Night, Blackest Night. Go find it. The Secret Wars I was talking about. Go find that. The Batman 52s that we're talking about. Go find that. Flashpoint. Read that.
The the Dark Empire from Star Wars.
Yeah, read that. The Secret Empire that I was talking about. Hush. Anything.
Yep.
Anything that there's stories out there like crazy, and then find something new. I found Invincible and I loved it. Um, Anything. It's good shit out there, man. We're missing out on it. I know it.
Hashtag read a book.
Hashtag read a book, read a comic. Comics are a gateway to books too.
They are their gateway drugs.
A gateway drug.
Oh, and there's my favorite comic is the Dexter comic
Oh, they
because
made a
I
comic?
have all the books. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
and they're canon too. So, well,
Oh
in
shit.
the book universe they are.
Speaking of Dexter, you heard that they're gonna put the freaking dude in there again?
Yeah, I read that. I don't know why, but
That's like
or how.
it's got to be like flashbacks or something in his head, but
Yeah,
still, shouldn't that have been like in a surprise instead of like, hey, Trinity Killer's gonna be here too?
it should have been a surprise. It would have been way cooler if they wouldn't have revealed that.
Yeah, like I feel robbed, you know? Like, come on, man. Like, I got pissed. Like, oh, great, thanks for telling me the Trinity Killer is gonna pop up in it.
Yeah, now that's ruined.
Yeah, you little bitches. Thank you, motherfuckers. Now I'm just
But
gonna be waiting.
tell people where they can find us.
Oh, you can find us at your local freaking shopping mall. No, I'm just kidding. You can find us at the machineroompodcast.com right there. You could hear us in all the places because every week Rachel keeps telling me we're available here and there. So I don't even know where we're available, but the website will tell you we're available. I do know that. Listen to us on Spotify, so you can listen to us on Spotify. You can listen to us on iTunes. You can watch this stream again on YouTube. And just keep following us on Twitter at Real Machine Room, and you'll get all your Machine Room needs. Also, follow us. You can follow me on Twitter at Nazstradamus. That's Naztradamix. And you can follow Hammer Venus on Twitter as well. Hers is easier to figure out how to spell.
It is easier.
Yeah, mine's is really, I gotta do like the Mickey Mouse Club on you. And yeah, just do all that and you'll keep up with us. I like to thank everybody who's in the chat room. What it says, Punisher's name lets the reader know it'll be violent, but they deserve the punishment. Punisher, yo. Series was great. I'd like to thank everybody in the chat room for being involved in this discussion. We just wanted to geek out. I just wanted to talk. It's funny because the last episode was about DC and Batman and stuff like that. And then I totally forgot about that. DC and oral sex, and now we're just talking about comics, period.
Anytime is a good time to talk about comics.
Every time. I never mentioned that I tried my own, too. It was just stick figures. I didn't really
Oh,
like draw
really?
like crazy. Yeah, it was just like stick figures, and I remember drawing it all out. And then I had like this had this classmate in high school, and he was like, "Yo, let me borrow your notebook where you got your little comic. I want to show some my friends or whatever at home." I'm like, "All right, man, but let me get it back." I didn't get it back for like a while. I got it back eventually, but I didn't get it back for a while. I almost got scared, man. He was a cool kid though.
Well, I have a script for a comic that I wrote, which I've shown you, and there's a certain artist that I'm working with that I hope we can get this out, which I think would be very exciting.
It's not Cowboy Chicken, is it?
It is.
That's what I'm talking about. Y'all don't know. Y'all
Y'all
don't know
don't know
about
about
that.
Cowboy Chicken.
But we'll leave you hanging with that. Thank you guys for being here. I'm Nostradamus. She's Hammer Venus. And this has been another Machine Room podcast. Now, for your assignment, go read a comic, yo. Any comic. And tell us about it. Alright? Till then, adios. Good night.